So you want me to start out with the good news or the bad news? But the good news is, we're 3-2. Our two losses are the team that right now is 17-2, and we've beaten a couple teams that are 4-1 in the league. We've kind of proven what we can be. Teams other than Texas Southern are like 64-9 or 10. I mean, I think we kind of know that we're good enough to play with some teams, but you got to have your best players play well. The other good news is I'm still happy with the rotation thing. I think it's going to help. We got to get Forbes now more shots, but I think it gives us a better rotation off the bench, at least right now. And the last bit of good news is, I don't coach the Green Bay Packers. So that's real good news after watching that game and realizing how doesn't matter if you're in high school, college, or pro, people make mistakes. The bad is I wasn't happy with the way we played in Maryland. The unexcusable missed layups, the fact that I didn't think our guards played very well offensively or defensively. But as I said then, and after watching the film, there's a lot of reasons, but Maryland played good. I mean, they shot the ball extremely well from the three and from the free throw line, and we shot the ball better than we did here, even missing all those layups. We rebounded the ball better than we did here. We did not defend the three and give them some credit that they hit a couple of wild ones, but I thought we didn't play maybe with the same energy that I thought we'd play after a week off, after some good practices, and I don't have a good reason for that. So something we'll work on. But it's an important stretch for us coming up, with a home game here against Penn State, a team that you'll all think is not very good, and understandably so when you look at their record. But if you look through that, or you watch the games and see the number of games they either let in, it's 35-33 at Wisconsin, and all of a sudden, they're down 10. They've been a team that I think has got the best scorer in the Big Ten in Newville, but they got other players to go along, and they're experienced players. I mean, they've got a very pretty deep team, but definitely an experienced starting five, one that a couple bad shots here or there, maybe, or missed shots has been the difference in winning or losing at least 3 of those 5 Big Ten games. So that will be a challenge because they'll be hungry. They know they've played with everybody in the league except one, and they played with them the first half at Wisconsin. They've had one of the more difficult schedules in the league because they've had a lot of road games. And they've lost an overtime game, and I think a couple of games by 3 or 4 points or less. So it's funny how 2 or 3 points makes a difference in whether you win or lose, and that's the way it is, and you get a reputation because of that. But I've been disappointed with maybe the consistency of our 3 guys. We've been a little up and down on that, and that has been disappointing. And I think happens to a team who scores a lot and can score from the 3-point line over the period of a year, all of a sudden your offense starts dictating your defense. And maybe more than our offense, our defense let us down in that game. It hasn't happened much. We were leading the league in defensive 3-point percentage. We were one of the leaders in the league in field goal percentage. And all of a sudden, a couple guys didn't shoot it well in their offense. And on the offensive side, and their defense was poor. And that's what we have to correct. So I'll take a lot of questions.
Tom, I have a 2-parter for you about the state of college football. When you look back at the NFL, Lombardi's Packers, 85 Bears, Steelers of the 70s could not compete with all the rule changes and everything in today's NFL. College basketball, with all the rule changes and everything else, how much is that impacting the game and changing it, especially for someone that's been around as long as you have? That's the first part.
You can't laugh because, believe it or not, that's That's as intelligent a question as I've been asked. I'm not trying to kiss your forehead, but it really does impact the game. I was not happy with some of the things that went on in that game. With, to me, illegal screens or this or that. And the opening play on a block charge was, the physicality of the game. We want to play bumper pool ball in one aspect, and then we want to let freedom on the outside, and we're letting guys take charges. But it's a coach's job, in fairness, to have to adjust to that. And he has to adjust his team to that. And have I done a great job of that? We've always wanted to play more physical and things like that. Maybe not. Over these years, we've made changes. We've still gone back to Final Fours. We're still winning 25 games, 30 games a year. So we've probably adjusted more than you'd think. But is it difficult? Yeah, it is. You've seen a Duke and Louisville game, and the game's in the 40s late, and everybody wants more scoring, more freedom, more this, more that. It has been a lot of changes, and I'm not crazy about watching the NFL or, as far as these D-backs not being able to even look at somebody cross-eyed, or if you hit a guy 1 minute, it's a I guess our version of a flagrant foul. I know we're trying to protect the players, but I think we're making the game now where maybe I'm not taking advantage of the rules as much. It's almost now you should just put your head down and drive because you're going to get a foul. We're seeing some teams shooting almost 30 free throws a game. They talk about the enjoyment of the game and they don't want the physicality of it. But does anybody want to go to a game? When I go to a high school game and I watch a free throw contest, hell, I can shoot free throws against my wife, if that's what I want to go to. So I think there's some validity to that, but I think it's the head coach's job. So don't let me skew this. It's the head coach's job to adjust his team. If you don't like 55 miles an hour and it changes to 70, you're happy. If it changes back to 55, you go 65, you're getting a ticket. So it's my job to adjust my team to how games are being called. And I think what's happened in our sport, unlike the NFL, is you're worried about us making adjustments. Officials have to make adjustments. And then when they're coming from all different angles and all different conferences, which never used to be that way. Used to be predominantly the same officials would do the Big Ten. Then it went to the same official do the Big Ten and the Big East. Now we're all over, and I think that makes it difficult for them and difficult for us. But it's the same for everybody, and everybody's got to adjust to it. But I think a lot of people are having trouble adjusting to it. I think that's why there's more upsets. I think that's why there's more strange games, as some we see. But it's a good question. There are adjustments, and maybe I have to look at that more than anybody, meaning in our team, because it is the head coach's job to make sure the players adjust to rule changes, to significant influences on rules, to, that screwed up little line they put in there that the only thing that stops is the guy taking it from out of bounds when it goes through the net, because that's the only place it's protected. If I was czar for the day, I'd change a lot of things. But I hope we don't get so soft. I don't enjoy watching football. When you tackle the quarterback, I want to protect them. But, man, I feel sorry for some of those defensive players, and I think that's the way it is in basketball at times too. The second part.
The second part of the question is, you can't legislate a lot of things, and whatever those may be. Is the game of basketball, which peaked as so wickedly popular, killing itself when fans are like, if there's two possessions without a foul, they're celebrating? Where I can watch one of your games sitting courtside at a ref who calls, if a guy burps, it's a foul, then the next night he can pull out an Uzi and practically kill people. Are they hurting the game, the product itself?
Well, I think that falls on us too. I don't think it falls on officials. And the reason I say that is there are just so many different conferences they're officiating in. Every conference does it different. There is no consistency. But we've caused that. We don't want to pay them. We let them work 7 days a week. Nobody's going to be able to do that. So it's like I say about our kids. We blame them for what they do, and society allows it. We blame them for transferring, and we make it easier to transfer. We blame them for getting in trouble, and we make it easier when they get in trouble. Nobody holds anybody accountable, and we blame the officials. I'm guilty. Blame the officials, but they've got all these rule changes and these different conferences, and 1 minute they're reffing a team that a little lower level and can't do things, and pretty soon they're refereeing a game where you got Michael Jordan playing, and it's hard to adjust. It's and then the fatigue factor for these officials to me is off the charts, and yet I don't blame them. I mean, we're the ones that are going to have to come up with better rules. They talk about these new rules, the NCAA, and paying the players and this and that. Maybe we should look at something with the officials so that they don't have to work 28 days out of the 30-day month, because I think the only people that can do that are coaches, and we don't have to run up and down the floor. Nobody else does that in society. Something to think about.
Tom, Travis said the other day you guys work on free throws more than he's ever worked on them in his career. How much more have you been working on them, and how big of a concern is this at this point?
Brandon Dawson's in here. He's got a class now on free throw shooting. He's got a small schedule because he's going to graduate on time, so he does not have to take a full load. And so we decided that, Professor Garland will teach a class every day, and he's in here shooting them. And I've never had that happen. I give Brandon credit. I give him. And there's no question he's not as bad as he's shooting. He's just it's in your head. It happens. It's the way it goes. But then it becomes an epidemic because some good free throw shooters are not shooting it as well. And is it a problem? Yeah, it's a problem. But it goes back to what some of the NBA guys are complaining about. Kids don't have the fundamentals, and you can only spend so much time. This is what I say to my own players. At this time of year, everybody's trying to shrink their practices down a little bit. If you want to add 5-minute segments of free throw shooting in, and you try to do that 3 times, and then get a little more shooting in, I mean, it's hard to get everything in an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. So what we're trying to do now is shoot some before practice, shoot some after practice, shoot some during practice, because if you don't shoot them during, they're not tired. And then come in at night and shoot some. I mean, yeah, it's a problem. But believe it or not, when you miss the layups we missed in that last game, that's a bigger problem than a free throw to me. Number one, it's worth 2 points, not 1. But number 2, it's a 1-foot shot, not a 15-foot shot. So there's always problems. I watched some of that Louisville-Duke game, and I was thinking of all the years that Rick was at Kentucky and Providence, and the only thing they did was live and die on the 3-point shot. And I didn't see a guy that could shoot one. So different things happen, different reasons. We're playing guys at different times. Kaminsky, if he was here, he was shooting 80-some% from the line and a great 3-point shooter. You lose people. You do what you can do. But then you do the other thing, too, Joe, is you do not want to make it so big a deal that you just add to the mental craziness of it, because they're getting it on Twitter and commercial. And so then you gotta weigh it what you do. But I will say this, like in Brandon's case, there's nobody that's worked harder on it this year. I told you guys over the years when he didn't do something as hard as he should. So take it from my heart that he's spending an enormous amount of time before and after practice, and until he has a game where he goes 6 for 7 and gets mentally out of it, out of his head, I think he's just going to have to keep grinding at it. But If he wasn't working at it, I'd be more upset than he is. I am going to have him work on his layup, so.
The extent to which Maryland seemed to focus on Trice and Denzel and shutting them down from three, do you expect future opponents to try to emulate that, and how do you kind of counteract that?
You know, it's funny when you lose, you find a million things that were wrong when you win. We shot 45%. They shot 43%. They didn't shut those guys down. They put an emphasis on those guys. Those guys missed some shots. We did not run our offense the way it needed to be run. There was no setups by Trice. He got away, maybe got frustrated because the other end wasn't going his way. And so you find a million things. Every team in America is going to try to shut down the 2 or 3 best players. That's no secret. I mean, we try to do the same thing. You know, when we held Lehman to 4 points here, did you talk about that? No, because we lost. I mean, you know, every team does that. That's not Maryland. That's not every team does that. Northern Michigan's doing that up there in the cold right now. They're trying to figure out what Saginaw Valley has, and they're going to try to stop their top 2 guys. I mean, don't mean to be insulting, but you don't have to be a math major to figure that out. That's what they try to do. So is every team going to do it? Yes, they are. Did they got to do a better job handling it? Yes, they did. But Duke tried to do that too, and he had 17 or whatever. You know, that falls on us doing a better job screening, him doing a better job setting up, him pushing the ball, which was non-existent in that last game. Us maybe playing him too much at the point, and maybe we got to, you know, for everything Tom doesn't do, there's some things he does do, and we got to get Trav off the ball maybe some. But I'm not going to panic over one game when somebody took him away. You know, when Melo Trumbo was here, he was 2 for 13, I think. And the other guy had 4 points. You know, we said in the huddle, 2 players are beating us. Well, one was getting to the free throw line a decent amount. In this case, it was Lehman, not Melo. And one was shooting 25% from the 3 going in, and he hit every 3 he took. They weren't all wide open threes. He made some tough shots. So, yeah, they're going to try to take away Trice, Valentine, and Dawson, and so is Rutgers, and so is everybody else. And we're going to try to take away. You know, we don't ever go into a game. Very, very, very seldom. I shouldn't say never, but very seldom do we go into a game taking their best scorer or 2 and saying, well, we're going to let him get his. You know, now if some team we're playing isn't very good and they got one great scorer and a bunch of guys that couldn't play dead in a cowboy movie, then I might do that. But for the most part, you're always trying to limit. One of our goals is limit their leading scorers, cut their margin in a third or whatever. So I think everybody's trying to do the same thing on that.
Javon, what do you see as his ceiling for this year offensively, and what can he give you in this last month and a half? What are you hoping for?
I think he's going to give us a lot. I don't think it'll be in the area that you guys want to see. I mean, he's not going to just score. He's going to get to the foul line more. He shoots the ball pretty well. He's 0 for 3 from the line, but he's going to get a rebound. He's going to be able to guard people. He does anything you ask him to do. I think he'll keep the ball moving a little bit better. And I think maybe most important of all is then we can bring Bryn in a different situation. Now, I did a poor job with Bryn in the last game. I did a poor job. Bryn didn't do a poor job. I did. I felt like Denzel was shooting the ball pretty well and Trice was shooting it great, and we did not run enough stuff for Bryn. And Bryn is shooting 50% from the field and 50% from the 3, not getting as many shots. So that's one thing that'll change this week, you know, because he does come off screens a little bit better. Hey, we did a poor job in that area. They did a good job. We did a poor job. But Bryn Forbes, you know, he played 22 or 23 minutes. It was less than the 29 he plays, but it wasn't because of that. We were just – none of the guys played as many minutes as they've been playing because the way the game went, to be honest with you. So I have to do a better job with Bryn is maybe the biggest thing, and Javon has to do what we want him to do, be in there and be solid right now. He missed let's face it, he missed half the year. And we're seeing now, other teams are maybe are going to go through it in the second half of the year. There's been some significant injuries around the league. I say everything always evens out. We'll see if it does. But the big thing is you don't come back from those injuries and be the same player you were in September. What I'm hoping for is steadiness, solid. Should have enough scores with Forbes, Valentine, and Trice, and Dawson. Is still, he gets 14 points and 10 rebounds. I mean, not great, but not bad. So I wouldn't look for 20 points a game out of him this year, but I would look at he's going to start knocking around, getting some solid points and getting some more rebounds and playing better defense, but giving me the chance to bring Bryn off the bench, and hopefully it's going to help Bryn and our team.
Tom, after the game, Travis was talking about not letting one loss turn into two to three, and I guess when you look at the schedule coming up, and as you said the other day, topsy-turvy nature of this conference, I mean, how much do you balance trying to learn from what happened the other day and just part of saying, let's kind of put it
I struggled to figure out as I watched the tape, and we had a bunch of meetings yesterday with individual players, groups of players, just to try to see. I mean, we lost Maryland twice. They're 17-2. Matchups in basketball are always a big thing, and some teams you match up with. I'm sure it's that way in football. I mean, when you watch the Patriots and whatchamacallit, a little bit I saw last night. I mean, some teams don't match up. They have tremendous size, and that bothered us. It bothered us. We talked about being ready to shoot. Trice and Valentine were not ready to shoot, and you don't get another second when there's 6'10" guys coming at you as perimeter players. So I think Travis said it best. I mean, you can't let one loss turn into two. I was asked a good question on my conference thing this morning that, people are ripping our league, and I forgot to tell Drew last week that the Big Ten did okay in the bowl games. I think he pronounced them dead on arrival and buried them, and that's the way it is. But bowl games, Big Ten did pretty well. Right now, where's the Big Ten at? Well, it's still Wisconsin, no question. Maryland has moved into that second spot. I don't think there's any question. But it's not, the conference isn't poor. The problem with the conference is it's almost too good. I mean, you look at the SEC and are you beaten up? Does anybody want to play the 12th place team in our league, 13th place team in our league? Because I think Rutgers was unanimous last place team or second to the last place team, and our first place team got beat by them. And so the league is not as good at the top. I said that at the beginning of the year. I said it at the middle of the year. I might say it at the end of the year. But the league is definitely deeper, better, deeper. And even though the Duke Carolina has carried the ACC, I mean, let's face it, half my career here, Michigan, Ohio State, when I was in high school in football, it was the big two and the little 8 or whatever they called it back then. And if your top teams, if you have two good top teams, the conference gets a reprieve. Everybody thinks more of the conference. If Michigan State doesn't go get beat by Oregon this year, everybody at the beginning of the year, everybody thinks more of the conference. If Ohio State doesn't get beat by Virginia Tech, now the Big Ten is different. And I think the way you should rate a conference is what are teams 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because that's what's hard. There's never an easy game, not home or away. And I really do think we have some very good teams in those areas, and that's what makes the conference, I think, tougher.